Okay, big day today because Justin Hunte, aka the company man, has reviewed our Poetic Justice Theory in one of his videos. Before we get into all of this, I did clip the video down. I took parts of me out talking. I'm not trying to sit here for 45 minutes and listen to myself talk. That's not what I'm trying to do. What I am going to do, though, is I'm going to take the bits of Justin and kind of react to what he says, what Stat Quo says, and then also what Mixed by Ali has to say about the Poetic Justice Theory. But I think it is really cool. And I'm going to say real quick before we get into the video, thank you very much to Justin. I am beyond grateful that you took the time to review our theory. All me and Des have ever wanted is to get this theory into the hands of people who would be in the know, who are an authority on these subjects, and who could possibly be in the room to ask the right questions. So literally, thank you so much. And actually, Justin, I don't know if you recall, but I did post at you on Blue Sky. I said, hello. I've been told by several people to at you on here in hopes that you'll watch my videos. It's about Kendrick and Drake, and it's hip hop's holy grail, which I firmly believe that it is still. Poetic Justice is a diss track. There are 2 videos on my page about this. Enjoy. And that was when we only had 2 YouTube videos. Like, that's how crazy these last 8 months have been. And not only that, but the last 2 or 3 months in particular. Like, this theory has taken off. And Justin said that he will check it out, and he is a man of his word. And then I went back at him and I said, I appreciate it, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts on it. And I do. Because as a person who creates content, you watch Justin's videos, he is a beast when it comes to this stuff. Like, it is. Like, it's tangible. You can see it in the content. So to have not only a guy who's a beast creating content, and also a guy who is an authority, or you guys view as an authority on hip-hop in these spaces, this is really big for us, and this is really cool. I want to get into the clips. Like I said, I took the bits of me talking out. I'm not trying to hear myself talk. And without further ado, let's get into Justin and what he has to say about us.
Because while I was reviewing these unreleased clips from the Third Verse podcast, what's been called the Poetic Justice Theory has been going crazy viral online. What's the Poetic Justice Theory?
Did Kendrick Lamar get Drake to diss himself on the song Poetic Justice?
Wait, what?
Was Kendrick Lamar one of Drake's early ghostwriters in Drake's career?
Meet Anthony Imbrunoni, TikToker, YouTuber, and creator of one of the most intriguing theories that I've heard surrounding Kendrick Lamar's great Shakespearean shakedown of Aubrey Drake Graham.
It's cool that Justin says that it's the most intriguing that he's heard so far. That's really cool. I really appreciate that. Where I want to expound. I want to expound a little bit on what Justin said there. Yes, I am a TikToker. Yes, I am a YouTuber. I'm fresh to YouTube, but I've been creating on TikTok for like 5 years now. What Justin doesn't mention is a little bit on my background, which we've talked a little bit on this channel. You know, starting in high school, I was in a very well-renowned in the state of Michigan journalism program. We produce broadcasters from the state of Michigan. And the high school that I went to, the newspaper that I worked on, we won awards constantly. Like, I had one of the best journalism teachers in the state from 10th grade all the way through 12th grade. Like, that's who I had telling me how to work stories and coaching me through how to work stories. So I do have a journalism background. After that, I went to college for English and creative writing. I wanted to be a writer. I left that, just because I wanted to explore some other things. And I ended up in broadcasting school. I went to Specs Howard in Detroit, and that's where I attained my broadcasting degree. You can either have gone television or radio. I chose radio as a medium for me because it fit who I am as a person. I don't like to be controlled with what I say and how I think and how I have to present content. And radio gave me a platform just to be myself and express myself. So that's why I chose that. A quick note on Dez's background, because I feel like that's important to note here as well. Marketing whiz, extensive background in marketing, over a decade plus. Literally one of the best when it comes to creating social media content and strategies out there. She's a fucking whiz when it comes to that stuff. And she's the best. So between the both of us, Dez is 10 plus years in marketing and being a savant with social media, me with my 10 plus years in radio, working in markets like Detroit and Spokane, Our media background and our social media background is extensive. So all of that in mind, it's like, hey, we're not just getting on here and we got a microphone and we're just talking out of our asses. Like, we know how to present content and we know how to work a story.
And there's been a lot of theories. There was the James Francis incredible watch the party die theory. There was the Passion of the Weiss 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse theory. There's the Mike Zombie was the OVO mole theory. None of them nearly as diabolical as the Poetic Justice Theory. Anthony and his fiancée Deseree Rose arrived at the Poetic Justice Theory during a pandemic-long deep dive into Kendrick's back catalog back in 2020. Since then, they put together over 10 hours worth of content on multiple channels and different platforms. And in 2025, their theory became another exclamation point in the ongoing superfan wars between the owls and the kinfolk.
That's true.
I mean, it sounds galaxy-brained, right? But the level of nuance, research, and passion Anthony and Deseree put into this makes their investigation hyper interesting. Here's a quick breakdown.
And I really appreciate Justin taking the time to acknowledge our work on this. That was very cool of him. He didn't need to do that. He could have said these people are stupid and they suck and here's why. He didn't do that. And that is really cool.
Poetic Justice Theory is centered on 4 songs. Kendrick's verse on Buried Alive off of Drake's Take Care, which was released in November 2011, right before Drake brought Kendrick and A$AP Rocky on the Club Paradise tour. The second song is The Heart Part 3, which was released 3 days before Good Kid, Mad City in October 2012.
Yep.
The third song is Poetic Justice, which is on Good Kid, Mad City and the centerpiece of their idea. And the fourth song is Problems off A$AP Rocky's 2013 album, Long Live A$AP. Now, here are the significant lyrics in each song according to Anthony and Desiree's theory. On Buried Alive, they emphasize the last bars. When Kendrick says, so dig a shovel full of money, full of power, full of fame, and bury yourself alive, then I died. That represents Kendrick fully stepping into a nefarious music industry, and he now needs to bury his messages for the listener, which is the beginning to this coded journey, per Anthony and Desiree. On The Heart Part 3, Anthony theorizes that the line, 3 hollow tips aimed at your head, I'll be damned if the chopper jam now, is
yes, it's that line as well as the line where he says, I just started rapping to get away. I never thought your favorite rapper would want a verse. My fella got hit 25 times with a K. That's another one where we think it clearly stands out.
Significant because the 3 hollow tips represent the 3 songs, Buried Alive, Poetic Justice, and Problems, because, quote, it's on these 3 songs that it's going to expand on impact. The theory is going to expand on impact.
The theory is going to expand on impact, but the meaning, the deeper meanings, the lyrics are going to expand on impact.
Money Trees off of Good Kid, Mad City, according to Anthony, is part of the setup to Dot manipulating Drake into theoretically dissing himself on Poetic Justice, because Poetic Justice immediately follows Money Trees in the track listing. The hook on Money Trees goes, Money Trees is the perfect place for shade, and that's just how I feel. And Poetic Justice, again, is underneath Money Trees. This one is particularly layered. There's a lot to this one. Definitely listen to Anthony unpack it. I'll put the link in the description. Then he theorizes that the I'm Kendrick Lamar, AKA Benz is to me just a car. That line on fucking Problems is actually another call out to what Kendrick was talking about on Buried Alive, which is on Drake's Take Care. Okay, that's the rough summary.
Yes.
That's a super rough summary. These cats spent 5 years and over 10 hours worth of content really researching this. I'm not going to be able to come close to doing it justice in this video.
And that's what makes it hard for us as well. Like on this side of the theory, it's hard for us to distill 10 hours of content and funnel it into a 30-minute video. There are going to be levels and nuances that we've talked about in the past that don't make it onto those videos because we're trying to condense it. And that's why we always encourage people who are just discovering our page and discovering the content and discovering the theory to go back and really watch parts 1, parts 2, and part 3. Those deep dives really do, I think we do a great job at painting a picture here. You know what I mean? And laying out the reasons why this could be right.
So I'm going to put all the links in the description. Make sure you check them out. But here's Anthony's 90-second condensed summary of all of this.
Back in 2011, Kendrick Lamar goes on tour with Drake, A$AP Rocky, and I believe 2 Chainz was also on the tour.
It's at this time that Kendrick Lamar realizes that Drake uses ghostwriters and he doesn't actually write his own stuff, which Kendrick takes as a huge offense because Kendrick is a legitimate MC trying to come up in hip hop. Kendrick then goes home back to Compton to start recording Good Kid, Mad City with Dr. Dre and asks his new friend Drake to get on a song with him called Poetic Justice. It's inside this song that Kendrick Lamar gets Drake to diss himself. Don't believe me? Take a look. In the song, he gets Drake to say this one line right here. I could never right my wrongs unless I write them down for real, P.S. Kendrick paying homage to the guy, his idol, Tupac Shakur, in this song, because what's more poetic than getting a guy who doesn't write his own raps to diss himself on a song where that's all Tupac did was write his own stuff. Kendrick even kind of makes fun of Drake at the end of the song, going, read slow and you'll find gold mines in these lines, sincerely yours truly, and right before you go blind, P.S. Kendrick Lamar got Drake to diss himself on Poetic Justice. And Poetic Justice just happened to be one of those tracks where the movie that's playing in between the album of Good Kid, Mad City, there's a scene that plays out where someone is in the car that they're not supposed to be in. They don't know who this person is. Enough of all this talking. As a matter of fact, get out of the van before I snatch you out this motherfucker. It even goes on to say, like, tell me where are you from? Where your grandma stay, where your mama stay, and where your daddy stay. Because Drake isn't from around here. Drake isn't real hip hop in Kendrick's eyes. He's a plant. He's pop. He's pop masquerading as hip hop. And it's taking away from the black community.
I know it sounds nuts.
And it should be noted, when I made that 90-second condensed video, I made it on April 15th of 2024. That's where I posted it to TikTok. And mind you, that is a full 2 weeks before Euphoria dropped. It was before all of the information that came out during the battle, calling him a PDF file, calling him a colonizer. We didn't have any of that information. Like, we didn't have any of that information. So how I was able to pull from that video and just tell you, basically, Kendrick finds out that Drake uses ghostwriters while he's on tour, on the Club Paradise tour. I also say that he was disappointed and viewed that as a major disrespect because Kendrick is a legitimate MC trying to come up in hip hop. I then leave you with on that video where he says, like, Kendrick views Drake as taking away from the black community. How I was able to make that video is purely based on the lyrics and the timeline that we have been working on and working on this story. That is why you see such staunch defenders of our theory in the comment section. It's because they've been on the ride with us since early 2021. They have seen the work, and they have seen not only like the timeline of Drake versus Kendrick play out, but how we have talked about this in real time playing out as well. Like, it's not only the Drake and Kendrick timeline of going back and forth and the timeline of the beef, it's us and when we make our videos and the connections that people draw from those videos and apply it to the beef. There's a reason why when people go back and they watch that first video and they watch our decoding part 1, there's a reason why there are comments in there saying, are you time travelers? The only way we figured all of that out was just through the lyrics.
Sounds nuts, and yet it still lines up. Okay.
And the reason why it lines up and the reason why the math is mathing is because we stick to the rules in this house. Timeline and lyrics. That's it.
Now, there's a few issues I have with the poetic justice theory as I see it. Just a couple of things that don't necessarily all the way line up with what I believe Anthony and Deseree are putting out there. Mm-hmm. The first one is I feel like Anthony gets a bit conspiratorial in some of his rebuttals. A common counter argument detractors make about the poetic justice theory is, why didn't Kendrick make this reveal during the battle? My personal answer to that question is simple. Maybe he did, and we just didn't get a chance to hear it. What did Dot say on Not Like Us? How many stocks do I really have in stock? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 5? Maybe that's more in the joints. You know what I mean? Maybe. Or maybe if the battle didn't get so ugly so early, right? If Drake's not talking about Whitney and abuse so quickly, Dot would have taken a different approach. Maybe instead of meet the grams, we would have got, that's why I made you dish yourself, haha.
So to Justin's point there, yes, all of that, it could be true. 100%. If Drake doesn't take it to such an ugly place so quickly, maybe Kendrick just keeps it rap, right? Shut the fuck up and keep it rap. But that's not what transpired. And if you go back and you listen to Decoding Part 2, where we filmed that right after the beef. We tell you, like, there are references Kendrick makes throughout the battle that lend credence to our poetic justice theory, i.e. the line on Euphoria where he says, the very first time I shot me a Drake, I didn't point down enough. Today I'll show you I learned from those mistakes. So he's saying, like, the first time I shot him, you didn't get it. It went over everyone's head. I wasn't direct enough. Today I'm going to show you I learned from those mistakes. We understood the shots that were taken on the BET Cypher. We understood the shots that were taken on Control. And that's where, again, like, you're going to get the people who really rock with our theory saying, like, hey, no, like, you got to go hear them out. Like, they have an answer for that as well. And then in part 3, we talk about the references that you find on GNX, like on the song Squabble Up, fallen from a money tree and it grows throughout the month. Spit a loogie at the camera, speeding off. Yeah, it's us. A Money Trees reference, a Poetic Justice reference, and a Tupac reference all wrapped into one. And then you look at, you know, stuff like the GNX tour, where literally the set list didn't change night after night. And he's on stage performing Money Trees into Poetic Justice. So that's the reason why you see a lot of people up in arms defending the theory. So just wanted to get that out there.
Right. My mind goes in that direction. Here's what Anthony said.
And it's because we believe that the industry got involved. And once Drake found out what happened to him, Drake went to the labels and went to the industry and said, we got a problem. And Drake's people went to the industry and said, we got a problem. And we got to button this up. And we believe that Kendrick Lamar, not only Kendrick Lamar, but every member of TDE has an NDA out because they were all in the studio together. They were. J-Rock, Absol, Schoolboy Q, Punch was right there with them. Top Dog was right there with them. They're the ones who hatched this plan together to pull this off on Drake. Mm-hmm. So, and how do we know that? We know that because of The Heart Part 6 being a mirror image song and a detailed song of, like, pretty much like laying out what was going on when he was recording The Heart Part 3. And then The Heart Part 3 is them pulling off, talking about and detailing out them pulling off the heist. So again, there's these little nuances to our theory that you can only find in the 10 hours worth of content. So I give Justin a lot of grace here where he's taking our stuff and trying to present it to you through the lens, right? Like he's giving you the honest thoughts. But there, and to his credit, he does say towards the end of the video, like there is a lot on this. So you just got to have the full context when talking about this stuff. It's not just Kendrick Lamar under the NDA. It's all of them.
I don't believe you. Time to musk up.
Wow. Now, as far as the NDA goes, the reason why we believe that there is an NDA out is because of the things that were said on the BET Cypher, as well as things that were said on subsequent projects, i.e., what was said on the song King Kunta. And when Jeremy Hecht first brought the Poetic Justice Theory to the bigger picture and had Elliot Wilson and DJ Head react, DJ Head gave us context clues as to why we could be right when discussing this. And it's in the videos. It's all there. And again, I understand it's 10 hours worth of content. It's tough to get to all of it, but I'm glad that Justin is asking these questions and trying to poke holes, because I actually have answers to these questions and logic and reasoning behind why we think this. And I can point to stuff on record that is said. And again, we stick to timeline and we stick to the lyrics.
This tie-in to me is very thin on face value. The same thing with PS, meaning Pac Shakur. Okay, PS, Pac Shakur. Now, to Anthony's credit, he has a whole video that talks about that one too on his page. I'll put a link in the description. Take a look at it. But PS meaning Pac Shakur instead of postscript, that feels like a Bikram yoga stretch.
It is what it is. It is what it is.
Regardless, the Poetic Justice Theory.
And look, I'll be completely honest. I am walking by faith on that one. I am using my heart and not my eyes when it comes to that. Could it be a stretch? Could it be a reach? Yes. But in the grand scheme of things, if it means progressing this conversation forward, I'm willing to drop that. That's fine by me. It is not a hill that I am willing to die on. I would much rather progress the conversation and keep carrying it forward than die on that hill. So we're going to continue.
Reached its zenith when Glasses Malone called into the bigger picture and revealed something hyper compelling from a timeline standpoint. The common perception is that Drake's ghostwriting allegations don't start until 2015 when Meek Mill called him out during their fiery confrontation, which revealed Quentin Miller had been penning hits for the Canadian.
Yep.
But Glasses added a crazy new wrinkle. Okay, this is wild. Okay, Glasses added a crazy wrinkle. Here's a clip.
The first person that brought it to my attention, and I don't know if this right to snitch on him, is Dot. Dot is the first person that brought it to my attention. But I'll be honest, when he first came, it was always, we knew it was a pop approach from a pop artist. He was introduced kind of as this Nickelodeon kind of kid to the people at the label. And, you know, talking to him, he was a well-mannered dude. But when they pressed play, you could just tell he was like a savant when it came to making records. Like, it was just nice. Yeah. So now that I understand what's happening, like, that would make sense. You know what I mean? Especially a lot earlier than we think. You know what I mean?
Was that 2011?
Yeah, I'm thinking it's around then.
Was Kendrick disappointed?
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. I didn't even...
Now remember, Justin had already played at this point my 90-second explanation of the Poetic Justice Theory from April 15th of 2024. How could I have known? How could we have me and Des had put that together? Completely out of context. How could we have done that? How could we have gotten on the internet and said that? It's because we look at the lyrics and we look at the timeline of events. That's why. That's why the maths. That's why Justin becomes a bit of a believer.
I called the nigga a liar.
Okay. So according to Glasses, Kendrick told him in 2011 that Drake was using ghostwriters, and he was disappointed. In 2011. That's wild early. Okay. Now, regardless of how I feel, that on the record statement is significant, right? Glasses' testimony just added a new layer of gravity to the Poetic Justice Theory, right? Their theory is that Kendrick ghost wrote for Drake and got him to diss himself on Poetic Justice.
And again, at this point, mind you, DJ had Elliot Wilson and Jeremy Hecht had already talked about the Poetic Justice Theory. I believe it was 1 or 2 weeks before. So they had already done 15 minutes on the Poetic Justice Theory. That's where DJ had gives us that first context clue about King Kunta and him referring to an NDA and him referring to the Quentin Miller ghostwriting accusations before Meek Mill had come out and said something. So DJ had already give us that context clue. Now we have Glasses Malone on, adding more context clues. And mind you, at this time, it had been 2.5, almost 3 weeks in between. At any point, any of these men who are close to this camp could have come out and said, nah, this is stupid. This is a dumb theory. These people don't know what they're talking about. It's why maybe.
Or, here's another idea that's going to be very controversial. You could shut the fuck up.
White people should shut the fuck up. So they had multiple opportunities to shut this down, but they didn't. If anything, they gave us more context clues as to why we are right. And those context clues line up with the Poetic Justice Theory.
One of the big arguments against that is that, well, how do you know Drake was using ghostwriters back in 2012 or 2011? Well, Glasses Malone has now just confirmed it. Right. I'm thinking about all this stuff as I'm looking at unreleased clips from the Third Verse podcast. So now I got to bring all this back to the pod.
The Third Verse.
I love the way
the next episode we filmed after that was with
surgical.
Actor, producer, hip-hop head Omar Dorsey. Omar's the illest. The conversation dives into incredible roles he's played in Django Unchained and Bookies. We talk Hollywood politics, Atlanta hip-hop, and more. Super dope. Can't wait for you guys to see it. But right here, Stat was in the middle of detailing how ghostwriting works in the real world when I asked him plainly. Did Kendrick Lamar write Drake's verse on Poetic Justice?
And I just want to stop this really quick. I want to give Justin his flowers. Justin, I'm giving you your flowers. Thank you for asking the questions. That's all me and Des have ever wanted, is someone in the room with people who might be in the know and just ask these questions because I've been dying to figure this out.
I don't know. I do know this. When you go into the subject, I do know this. Drake wasn't a fan of that song. As a person that went to get that beat, and
again, another person not saying no and adding more context clues as to why the Poetic Justice Theory could be right.
Kendrick did that song and wanted Drake to get on it. The song Problems, Drake sent the song Problems, which ended up being A$AP Rocky's song. He sent that back because 2 Chainz was on that hook. He sent that back to Kendrick. Kendrick did the verse, but Kendrick didn't feel like it fit his album. He really wanted Drake to do Poetic Justice. So it could have been a situation of that happening.
Drake wasn't a fan of the song. Drake wasn't a fan of the song. This is crazy.
No, he wasn't.
This is crazy. Okay, so we have Glasses Malone saying that Kendrick told him in 2011 that he found out Drake had writers and he was disappointed to hear that. And now we have Stat Quo, the guy who handpicked the Poetic Justice beat in the first place, saying that Drake wasn't a fan of that song at all. He wanted to give Kendrick fucking problems, but Kendrick said it didn't fit the album, and he was really adamant that Drake do Poetic Justice. The Poetic Justice Theory is that Kendrick wrote Drake's verse. Is it out of the question that someone who doesn't want to do something would just get someone else to do it for them and put their name on it?
It's not out of question at all. I love that I love that Justin's asking this question right now.
Is that out of the question? Is that crazy to think? Right? Like, I've had a number of people over the course of my life, for example, that I've asked to write recommendations for me. Sometimes people are
and this is a great analogy to use.
Too busy. The people who are too busy to write the recommendations, they told me to write the recommendation myself, and they'd put their name on it. They'd co-sign it. It happens all the time. Is that what happened here? He didn't like the song in the first place. Kendrick was like, yeah, no, I want to do this one. I mean, think about this. The Poetic Justice Theory has now traveled from a pandemic deep dive into Kendrick's catalog while Anthony played Madden to
I love the Madden reference because it's so true. I was in the year like 2045 and I just won like 10 Super Bowls in a row with the Lions.
And war online debate fodder to Glass Malone confirming that Kendrick knew Drake had writers as early as 2011. And now we have Stat Quo saying that actually Drake didn't even like the song, didn't want to do it, but Kendrick was adamant that this is the song they collab on.
Yeah.
Dot told Drake on Euphoria, I hate the way you sneak this, right? While potentially having the most diabolical sneak diss in hip hop history tucked away in the cut.
Truth.
1 second applause. Now, despite my personal reservations, at that point, I felt myself becoming a believer. Becoming a believer.
And Justin, I want you to hang on to that. As we go forward with this, as we keep making content about this subject, I want you to hold on to that belief or that shred of belief because it is important to understanding. It's important when breaking this all down. You have to leave room open for reality to be stranger than fiction.
Poetic Justice Theory, with the additions of what Glasses has added, with the additions of what Stat has just added, it's starting to feel possible, if not plausible. I was damn near sold. Damn near sold and almost ready to engage publicly. Ali was in the room during...
And it's at this part in the video where, the company man takes a second to plug Ali coming on the show, why he's coming on the show, and Ali plugging Ali's platform, his new platform, and new business venture into the tech and music space. And then he gets into the clip of them discussing the Poetic Justice Theory.
The creation of Poetic Justice. So of course,
and it's because Ali was the one who produced that track. We've talked about this on a couple of videos that are up on this channel.
I had to ask him about Anthony and Desiree's Poetic Justice Theory. Here's what he said.
It's 100% true. Nah.
That was great.
That was good.
That's amazing.
That's a home run. There's a lot of theories out there, man. That one in particular.
So right there, I'm going to hit pause just really quick. Right there, we get it's 100% true. Then, nah, right? So Yes. We get a yes. We get a no. And then we get a pause where he's trying to find the words to talk about it, especially this theory in particular, which means Ali is familiar with mine and Desiree's work, which is really cool. If you would have told me 5 years ago that Mixed by Ali was reviewing my work with Justin Hunte, I would have told you were crazy. So this part is really cool, but it just kind of, I'll get into why I think it's important to note in a second.
As much as I would want to say that, like, yeah, it's all like, nah, like, you know, I remember we sent the record to Drake. You know, he just sent the verse, sent a couple verses back. I think he went back after Dot, like, did a verse. He wanted to do it again or whatever. But yeah, nah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I love the fact that a lot of these individuals like put together these theories.
And I'm not there. I'm not in the room. So I don't know if there's more to this clip or not. I don't know if Justin asked a follow-up question or not. And that's important to note as well, you know, and maybe time will tell. Maybe there is more on the pod to this. But for me, if I were in the room, I would be asking some follow-up questions.
Because at times, there's been multiple times, right, that I've had to call Dot. Because, you know, the way he puts albums together, right, when you go back and listen to Pimp a Butterfly, right, I didn't hear the Tupac skits until the album was done. Like, you know, I didn't hear anything, like, how he's putting it together. Like, he was still in his mind conceptualizing, you know, how is he going to tie this together, right? Which is super, just creatively, like, it's way more advanced than what I could even fathom at that time in my life.
And right there, we get Ali saying he's not privy to everything that Kendrick is thinking creatively. You know, he's saying, like, there have been times where I've had to call him, like, yo, what is this? And him being, you know, one of the main producers on To Pimp a Butterfly, not hearing the Tupac skits in between until the album is finished, kind of shows you that Kendrick does play this stuff close to the chest, especially when it comes to the creative side of what he's trying to put out. So is it possible that he didn't know? Yeah, it's possible. Of course it is. And it should be noted, he talks about the verse going back and forth. So could I see a scenario playing out where Kendrick's like, hey, I want you on this album? You know, backing up what Stat Quo had to say about it, that he was adamant that he had to be on there. I want you. You're going to be on this song. This one in particular. Drake sends a verse that's mid to garbage. It's not going to fit the vision that Kendrick is trying to put out there. Kendrick then sends him something back. Like, hey, maybe do it more like this. And then Drake sends another verse back, more like that. Kendrick makes another edit. Drake sends the final thing. Yeah. If we're talking about a couple times back and forth, it's all in question. And nowhere in this conversation does Ali say, yeah, Drake wrote it and sent it. Nowhere. And I come back to the Complex interview that they all did back when Good Kid, Mad City had just dropped, where I believe it was Ali who said Kendrick felt like his voice, Drake's voice, not Drake's pen, not Drake's rapping ability, his voice had to be on there.
Right. You know, so there's multiple times where I see theories online and I'm like, yo, is this true? Like, you know, like, and I don't want to seem like a fucking idiot. Like, I recorded this shit and it's like, yo, what do you mean this is true? Like, you know, and it's like, I'm kind of, you know, but, you know, there are things that he does do intentionally, right? You know, and there's things that, you know, the fans, you know, put together. But I think either way, it goes back to just the art of the music. It's like that music is making people think that deeply now. Like, that's fucking fantastic, right? You're not just listening to a song and going to the next on the playlist. You're coming up with these theories that make a lot of fucking sense.
And in the context of the clip, he's talking about our theory. And I think there he's kind of letting credence to the fact that our theory does make a lot of sense. So again, it's another person close to the TD camp, not outright saying no. More context clues.
Okay, so there it is. There it is, mixed by Ali. The man who mixed Good Kid, Mad City worked on that song. He just confirmed that Drake sent his verses in and Kendrick did not ghostwrite Drake's verses on Poetic Justice.
He didn't say that though, Justin. He didn't say that. Just to be fair, he said that there was a back and forth. He said yes, he said no, he said maybe so. Nowhere did he say that Drake wrote that verse and sent it in. There was a back and forth. What? Again, I'm not in the room. So a follow-up question, if there is one, I don't know. It remains to be seen. But that's what I would have asked. What else do you know? If he's comfortable talking about it. And then that leads me to my thought process when I first saw the clip of, does Mixed by Ali want to be the guy who breaks this story open? Probably not, because it is a massive story if it's true. It completely reshapes how we look at their relationship, how we look at Kendrick's catalog, all of it. All of it comes into question. How we look at Drake, which I think is going to be a focal point of my channel moving forward. Did we ever really like him? Or was he just forced down our throats? So, again, it's a yes, it's a no, it's a maybe so, but context clues added. And to be fair, nowhere did he say, no, this is wrong. And he says that theory in particular makes a lot of sense.
But honestly, the door is still kind of cracked. The door is still kind of cracked for anyone hoping that the poetic justice theory.
And I'm hoping, Justin, if you're watching this video, I hope that like my reactions to like this stuff is opening your mind to thinking like maybe it is more than just a little cracked. And thank you for leaving the door cracked. You couldn't have done, Justin didn't have to do that. Justin could have said, no, this is it. Poetic justice theory debunked. There it is. He didn't do that. It's cracked. And I'm just hoping that we open the door just a little bit more, because there are some nuances that Justin missed that I would love to talk with him further about and explain a little bit more. There is more to this. And honestly, guys, until I'm the dude in the room with Justin or by myself doing these interviews and asking these questions, it's going to be hard for me to believe it's dead in the water. It just is. It just is.
It's true. And here's what I mean. Anthony and Deseree suggested Kendrick wrote Drake's verse, and earlier Anthony used Drake's trip to the motherland line as an example, as a part of their reasoning. That part of the theory to me is dead. Okay, I don't think Kendrick wrote the whole verse for Drake. I think that part of the theory is dead. But since both Kendrick and Drake still close their verses with the same pre-hook, but I can never right my wrongs unless I write them down for real, PS, there's still plenty of room for those who think that's enough, because that part in particular, is a major part of Anthony's hypothesis. Mm-hmm. We saw that in the 90-second short clip video. And while Ali confirmed on the Third Verse podcast that Drake submitted his verses, he also confirmed that while he engineered To Pimp a Butterfly, he didn't hear the Pac reveal until the album was completely finished.
Thank you for being fair, Justin. That is very fair.
Which means even he's sometimes surprised. What we do know is that Kendrick Lamar is a multi-level thinker that has a history of slipping creative nuances, even past his closest collaborators. And in that sense, for some, the poetic justice theory may be on life support, but it ain't dead yet. Ain't all the way dead yet. There's just enough sliver of light. The door is just cracked enough for hardcore believers who likely won't be swayed unless Dot speaks on this himself, if Kendrick confirms or denies this himself. What are the odds he ever does that?
We're going to stay on it until he does. That's the way I look at it. So I had a different ending for this recorded yesterday, but I gave it some thought over the night before I went to sleep, and then when I woke up this morning while I was sipping my coffee. And here's what I have to say about this video in particular and where we're moving forward with the poetic justice theory. Thank you to Justin. I really do appreciate him reviewing the work. That's all me and Des have ever wanted. The reason why the lyrics and the timeline are the two rules we follow in this house is because the lyrics and the timeline tell a story, and it's a vastly different story from the one that you'll see in mainstream media. Mainstream media will tell you that this whole thing between Drake and Kendrick is just two hardcore rappers jockeying to be the number one rapper and claim the top spot, and that this whole thing between them begins because Kendrick took shots at Drake on Control. You know, the lyrics and the timeline tell a vastly different story than the one that you get prepackaged and sold to you. So how could we have known Kendrick's personal feelings about Drake without the timeline and the lyrics? How could we have possibly deduced that Drake was using ghostwriters pre-2015 without the lyrics and the timeline in conjunction together? And the truth is that we couldn't have done it. And that's why we say, stick to the lyrics and stick to the timeline. I actually wrote this part. Down last night. I don't know if I was just, sleepless or if I was actually cooking, so you guys can let me know in the comments. But the poetic justice theory has never been about being right or being wrong. It's about freeing us from these prepackaged thoughts and ideas that govern the way we see and perceive art and the world around us, most importantly. I don't know what will come of the poetic justice theory in the future. The only thing I want is the truth out there. And for me, where I see when there's smoke, there is fire. Something happened, and there is a big chunk to this story missing. Whether Kendrick wrote the whole verse for Drake, or maybe he just got him to say the Brie hook, it doesn't matter. I just want the truth out there, because the way that we perceive art helps us perceive the world around us. And that is the main part of the poetic justice theory. I see some of you getting hung up on us being totally right or totally wrong. It's never been about that. Never. It's always been about something deeper. So that's my thoughts on that. I don't know how else to say it.